very important that we as a free people do not turn a blind eye to the struggles of other people who are also searching for their own freedom and support their nonviolent resistance to oppression. Now, will this one ceremony here today bring about freedom in Tibet? It will not. However, it clearly has gotten their attention. And if enough cities and enough peoples around the world, I'm very happy to say that hundreds of cities all around the world are participating today in hoisting the flag of Tibet at city halls, in regional, in community centers, regional forums all over the world. We're very pleased to be part of this. And each one of these efforts sends forth a tiny ripple. And in the immortal words of Robert Kennedy, 1968, each time a man stands up for an ideal or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression.
Those who perished in that struggle. Gatherings like this here in Charlottesville and around the country and around the world continue to generate and create awareness about the plight of the Tibetan people and the basic desire for autonomy and freedom. And I think it's vitally important that what we're doing here today is to help to maintain that and to keep that dream alive. And finally, as a minister, I absolutely believe in the power of prayer. And so it is really a privilege here today to pray with and for the Tibetan people and for their desire for freedom and autonomy, and to encourage people of all faith traditions and all nationalities to join us. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Reverend Don Lesky. Now I would like to ask Ms. Rebecca A. Carlson, Director on Nonviolence and Communities, Virginia Foundation for Humanities. Please.
Good morning. It's kind of cold out here, so we'll get moving fast. But I just wanted to say, first of all, I am a baby Buddhist, and I am grateful to the opportunity to practice, and in part because of the diaspora that the Reverend Linsky is speaking of. What I want to say as the head of Violence and Community, a Center on Violence and Community, where I've worked with people from all over the world who have survived great violence and and the loss of their nations. The most important, I just have to tell you, this is a really weird sounding thing for my voice. It's strange. I can actually hear myself. Anyway, what has been most important to me, what I've discovered in 20 years of research and work and talking to people, is that the most important thing we can do to stop violence and human rights violations is to keep standing up for them not happening. We have to. It's much harder to resist violence than it is to do violence. And I think the Tibetan people are teaching us this better than many other nations or many other faiths. So thank you very much. And I want to end with a prayer that I say when I know this is such a silly thing for you to hear from a Westerner perhaps, but it's upside down. I prayed to Green Tara, and I prayed to Green Tara for you and for me and for my people as well as your people. And I will now say an English version of the words of Dharma King Tresong Detsen. Through the power of our praises and prayers for all beings wherever they may be, may all quarrels and wars be ended. May poverty, destitution, and sickness be suppressed. May all demons be dispelled. May the Dharma and all that is auspicious increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I would like to ask Mr. Rich Falker, Mid-Atlantic Regional Coordinator for Students for Free Tibet, to share some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. So, first of all, I'd like to say today that I believe that the Tibetan issue is not just an issue on the other side of the world. It's not an issue of another people. The Tibetan issue is an issue of justice. And as Martin Luther King Jr. said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. China is rising. China is on the rise. China is hosting the Olympic Games this summer. And, well, we don't need to boo about that. The Olympic Games it's both a shame that China is hosting them, but it's also a huge opportunity. It's an opportunity for China to see the rest of the world, and the rest of the world to see China very closely. Just last night, March 10th in India, a group of over 100 Tibetans set forth on a return march to Tibet, as they've called it, returning from exile back to their homeland to challenge China at the border, to let them back into Tibet, that Tibet is theirs and not China's. This is going to be a long journey. These brave men and women plan to reach the border during the Olympic Games, and the only thing that will be protecting them from tremendous violence is the eyes of the world being on China during the Olympic Games. That's why it's so important for all of us, as people who have the freedom and the power, to be watching, to be aware, and to be calling out for the Tibetan cause, to do so, to make this the focus of all media events surrounding the Olympics, the focus of political discussion, the focus of what we discuss among our peers, all of that. Today in Charlottesville, I want to announce the founding of the new Charlottesville chapter of Students for a Free Tibet. Students for a Free Tibet is a chapter-based network that works in solidarity with the Tibetan people and their struggle for freedom and independence. Our methods are grassroots organizing and nonviolent direct action. Our methods are a way of achieving what we want, which is ultimately a resolution to the Tibetan issue and freedom and self-determination for all Tibetan people living in the entirety of Tibet, is twofold. On the one hand, we aim to make the continued occupation of Tibet increasingly costly to the Chinese. This means costly in terms of political fallout. This means costly in terms of social consequences to Chinese individuals and leaders. And perhaps most importantly, this means economically costly. This summer at the Olympic Games, China is trying to win a huge favor from the world. China is trying to win a position as a respectable world power. China's been working ever since they got the Games to show a happy, contented Tibetan people, joyous to be living under Chinese rule and benefiting from all sorts of economic development. And it's simply not true. If you arrive in Beijing, the first thing you see at the airport is billboards depicting happy Tibetans under Chinese rule. So glad that China brought them development, prosperity, whatever. It's not true. I've been all over Tibet. People there do not want to be Chinese, even the people who've benefited most from the occupation, who have the highest paying jobs, the best